Hello, welcome to the Cunning Plan podcast. I'm here with my good friends Christopher and Michael, Chris and Mike, if you want to be a little less formal, as I like to be. We were just discussing my smelly temples. I've got a bit of a headache, so Mike gave me some tiger balm to put on my
good stuff.
On my head. It's just here. It's a bit weird. It feels weird. I'm not going to lie.
It's a nice cooling effect, though.
But yeah, I've got cold head,
cold temples,
and a head, sort of a headache, and a cold head, and a smelly head. It's just a lot of different emotions and senses going on all at once.
We'll just call you smelly cat.
It's a bit weird, but anyway, you can't smell it, so that's totally fine. Anyway, we're here today to talk about catalogues, more specifically the design of catalogues. We do a few different catalogues for various different people. Some of which you can see peppering the desk in front of us. But I thought it would be quite an interesting thing to chat with you guys about everything that goes into the production of one of these catalogues. Because it's a huge amount of work and there's a lot of people involved, and it's quite intense. Challenging, quite intense. So let's start. Let's kick things off with the creative side of things. A lot of people see a catalogue and they think the cover that's like the be all and end all of it, but I know it goes a lot deeper than that, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, the first port of call is taking the client brief and what they want to achieve for that year. If we're talking about the bigger catalogues, I suppose, because over this past year we've produced 18 catalogues in total, which is a huge amount from your 12 pages right through to your 944 pages in different languages. So it's all about, the first protocol, as I say, is taking that client brief, what they want to achieve this year, what their customer target base is, and what message they want to portray, because your front cover is obviously the first thing you see, and that is the standout that catches people's attention. So once you've sat down, gone through the brief with the client, go away, start putting some ideas together for that creative part of the cover, and then you can start working up your internal spreads to go with that cover. But initially, it's getting those concepts together, and then pulling your team together as well.
And a lot of that for us is about thinking about the strategy behind what that catalogue is for, what's the main message for this year.
Yeah, and then it's like the theme that runs through it as well.
Yeah. So it's not just a case of going, we sell t-shirts, so let's put a t-shirt on it and make it look pretty, and that's the end of that. And I think that's perhaps one of the different ways that we approach it is to really think about how is this quite traditional thing of a catalogue or a big directory like these. How's that going to work in other formats, on digital, web, on social and all those kind of places as well? And what does it represent for the company this year, and how is it part of where they're going to be going? So that's I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, because everything has to have a strategy behind it for it to really work. Like you say, it's not just a pretty cover and then work up some nice stuff inside. It's got to have the strategy behind it, who you're aiming it at, for instance. So we've got this catalogue here that we can see, and we've got JCB workwear as well. That is more the builder's market, I suppose. Footwear is the majority what they go into, which is and then you've got all your technical aspects of that as well. But that's a different market to, obviously, we've got your Christmas brochure here for Hallmark hotels. And again, it's trying to get that message over behind. You work with a strategy, and you try and get that through in the creative process and the cover.
So when we're kicking off the creative, I know it varies from project to project, but one of the challenges is always that these things always take quite a long time to produce. So you're working quite a long way ahead when you start. So we're starting out working on something in, say, May, that's not going to see the light of day until potentially certainly the back end of the year, potentially even the beginning of next year.
Yes.
So how do you make sure that what we're doing is going to be on trend 6 months, 8 months from now?
Yeah, I mean that's certainly that's all part of the research that goes into it. So and that's I suppose the next stage after you've spoken with the client, got the strategy, and then you start doing that research behind what are the trends going into next year, and not only next year, the following year as well. So there's obviously certain websites that you can go on, especially like the more creative ones, that do actually predict trends of 2 years coming, and more often than not they're actually bang on, so that does help in your research along the way, and then you make sure you're hitting the market and the target audience that you want to get the message over to.
Cool. Okay. So we've got we've come up with a load of different ideas and a load of different routes and things like that. Naturally, that gets pitched to the client.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the client likes one of those.
Yeah,
They always like
yeah.
something. There's something more.
Yes.
Usually, they combine all of them into one mega idea.
Yeah, the development of.
So that evolves and changes as you go along. Once you've got that kind of structure, that sort of strategy for how that's going to go through the whole directory or the whole catalogue, whatever it is we're producing.
Yeah.
What's the next thing we've got to worry about here? I mean, how do we get, hundreds of thousands of products into this catalogue? How are they stored? Or I know we've done different things. We work with different other people's platforms. We've built our own platform to manage assets in that way. How does that all work? Mike's expert there.
It's kind of a combination of we need the list or the details from the client first of all. So once you have all the information, then it's kind of a case of then you work up the pagination.
Right.
So then you work the structure out for the internals of the catalogue. Because then obviously after you've got all the creative, then the creative flows into the inner pages as well. So you have like the introduction opening pages which all get worked up with the similar creatives. But then it's a kind of case of moving through the catalogue. You need to section it off for your different categories or your different headers, like section headers for say for t-shirts for instance, or boots, or jackets and coats for instance. Once they're all divided up, once you've got which products you want going into the actual catalogue, then it's more of a case of getting the images on the pages, getting design, some designs worked up, or if like looking at the brand themes as well, like looking at the brands and working up styles that the brands will be happy with to sell their products basically.
So in an instance like that, you're talking about having, rather than having just like a kind of templated, every page looks the same approach to it, if you've got like a multi-brand catalogue, you're talking about making those pages, each one kind of distinct.
Themed, to incorporate the branding basically. Because I mean that's like one of the things that will change. Well, it's not somewhat like the branding or their styles will change year to year, because they might present one style one year, then a different style another year. So it's more of a case of incorporating, like looking at their branding and incorporating that into the designs to actually, make it all gel together basically and sell it. That's the name of the game.
Nice, very nice. So when you're pulling it together, Chris, when you're like trying to get the plan together for something of this sort of scale, how on earth do you go about kind of predicting how much time is needed to do these pages, or the planning process? How much work goes into that side of things?
It's sometimes it can be a head scratcher, but I think the important thing to note here is preparation is key. No matter what size the brochure, no matter what or catalogue, however you want, or directory, whatever the terminology the client likes to use, whether it be a 32 page, 64 page, 944 page, it is all in the preparation, and when you're working to specific deadlines, especially when it's a printed catalogue, you've got specific targets that you have to hit along the way, and you are always dictated by that end and deadline really. So you have to set goals along the way. But in order, it's preparation is everything. The more preparation time, getting the right number of people in, or the right level of team, and deciding what strengths those people have as well within our team. So Mike, obviously, he's very technical minded, a bit more production led, understands what is required of it, all the detail that goes into it. So as Michael mentioned earlier, that asset management system is very, very key of how we manage that client content that comes over to us, and then rolling it out into the pages.
And that's how and when you say an asset management system, that's where the client stores all the products details, prices, images, basically everything that's going in.
Yes.
And we can take a feed out of, depending on what which system we're using, we take a feed out of that usually and plug that straight into the catalogue.
Yeah, I mean, because the more accurate that is as well, the more accurate your catalogue is going to be along the way, and that will always help, because obviously one of the key elements of producing a catalogue, again, no matter how big or small, that proofread, making sure that every detail, every product detail is absolutely bang on before it goes to print, because although we live in a digital world, that can be easily changed. Printed catalogue, that's there to stay, and we have to, the accuracy of that is so.
I think the communication with the client as well, in terms of the deadlines and in terms of getting the accuracy of the data that we're getting from the client needs to be absolutely spot on, because it's essentially that's the data that we're receiving, or when we're talking to the clients and we're communicating with them, and the data we're receiving, it has to be spot on, and it has to be hopefully finalised when we're putting it into the catalogue, so that, obviously yes, they do, all the proofreading and checking goes ahead, but the more accurate the data is before we put it into the catalogue, then a lot more efficient the job's going to be, really.
It is, yeah. And the communication in setting those goals as well is very key, and working with the clients in that. So I will always work to producing a Gantt chart, I suppose, and a timeline that will have set targets of what we need to achieve in order to make sure we've got time to do that proofread and deliver all our print files.
What are some of the challenges, I suppose, you face? I know there are many and varied the challenges that you face from the start to finish of a big project, but what are some of the hardest things that you have to have to deal with?
Getting stuff signed off.
Yeah, getting it right first, and then, get it right first time. It was signed off every time.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, one of the challenges, I suppose, a lot of the time we're working with our clients' information that is given to us. So sometimes when they are in PSF, for instance, and otherwise, they are brand led. So they have to get the information from the from their client base and then pass it over to us. So that's always a challenge in working with the client information provided to us, because it just has sometimes it will have a knock-on effect on the timings that we're trying to adhere to.
So during the build process, I know in a lot of these catalogues there are tiny details, like little. I'm always astounded by the amount of little details. Like there's a little, in this one over here, there are tiny little icons that match up, and they're drawn and illustrated exactly the same as the product itself. They're all in different colours, and the colours are in the right order.
Combinations.
And just all, all the different sizes, the different price tranches, and all this amount of information. We spend a lot of time focused on the creative side of things and making it look right and everything, but how on earth do you keep all that stuff straight and make sure that all ends up where it's meant to be?
It's a case of, say for instance, you have some products in here that have 50 different colourways, and then you might have as opposed to it just being like a t-shirt, they might have like, you know, 2 different colour stripes down, or some of the detail of the collars a different colour, and all of that stuff. And you know, when you're talking just one product that's got 50 different colourways, so that's 50 different icons that you're going to have to draw up, and then you also have to look at the accuracy of the colours, so make sure that they're to the right CMYK values. So I mean, all of that stuff takes time, and you know, we speak to the clients, we look for getting the correct data from the client in terms of the CMYK values, in terms of looking at the actual product image, so we know exactly what we're drawing, so we know what it looks like. But then in terms of, like, say for instance, if you had like a yellow t-shirt with a black stripe on one, if you just get one image, and then you've got, like, you know, so many different colourways, then you can't really just say, okay, right, well, this is a yellow t-shirt, well, this one's got a red stripe on it.
Yeah.
You still need to be that accurate. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if I'm the consumer and I'm looking through the catalogue and I'm just, you know, want to order this t-shirt, for instance, then it needs to be, it's good because it shows them that it's a yellow t-shirt with a red stripe on, because, you know, there's so many products that you might not necessarily display every single colourway of that product in the catalogue. So that's where the colour swatches come in, I suppose. Like the little tiny icons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of detail that goes into it, and it's, I suppose it's stuff like making sure all the sizing's accurate as well, which is always key, and then all the pricing, and you know, and it's especially when it comes to all the different languages and everything, you know, it's challenging. Let's put it like that.
And that's sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say it's that level of detail of getting the, you know, in that instance where we're selling products on the page, so the CMYK values for all the different colour swatches that we show, that's really key, because when customers are looking at that, that's what they're buying and that's what they want to buy. So that level of detail and accuracy is absolutely imperative. Yeah.
Okay, so once you've got it, you've got, you know, all the details right on the page. We've got the page designed up. Client's seen it. It's been covered in tracing paper, red crosses.
Yeah.
Like, mistake here and move this over here. And lots of that business. That's the same across the board. Now we've got it. You know, we've nailed it down. Now, as you said, it's, you know, it's proofing, and I think that's something that we really focus a lot of time and effort on, isn't it? Is making sure that it's been read again, someone else has read it. You get the guys that work on the, you know, social media and the content teams come down and they read stuff over as well, just so you've got non-designers looking at stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Designers, you know, not always the greatest at looking at the detail in the copy. So
and then, like, the production checks and stuff,
yeah.
And you know, it's all the accuracy of that as well. So yeah, I mean, there's, you know, how many times do you reckon a page gets proofed in there?
Oh,
say one page, well, every single page.
I always like to think that when the first page has been designed, you do the first proof, and then I probably think you were talking, in an ideal world, you'd go through three proofs for every spread.
I mean, I think I looked at that spread with those aggressive hipster chefs in there. That, like,
yeah.
I must have looked at that 5 times, that spread.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was just like luck, but I just happened to end up proofing that same page several times.
No, well, I mean, it's even once it's designed, you know, once we're like happy with it and high res it and then send it off, and then there's still all the proofing that when we get the printer's proofs back, that we're reading it again.
Yes.
And you know, and like the proofreaders read it multiple times, we've read it multiple times, you know. There's plenty of people who've read it multiple times, but it's always good to have a fresh pair of eyes, because, you know, I might be looking for specific things on the page because I'll be looking at it from a production perspective, but then whereas like Chris might come along and say, well, hang on a minute, why is this image in here? That's completely the wrong image, or you know, and it's going through the different stages, different levels of those checks, which make it as accurate as it is really, and as thorough as possible.
Yeah, I think with the timings within all brochures that we work on, they are quite often very, very tight, and it does have the opportunity, I suppose, to go a little bit, something get missed. Yes. So the more eyes you have on it, the better it is, and that's what I do like about us all coming together as a team to start working together on that side of things. It's social guys coming in and viewing and seeing things that look at it from a different, because sometimes you get so involved in a job, it is easy to miss the glaring things that's right in front of you. So
fresh.
Okay. Yeah. So once we're all done, well, like thereabouts, tell me a bit about the process with the printers and how we work with the printer to help make sure that we get a great, that ultimately that finished article represents what we wanted it to look like when we started designing it.
Okay, so the initial conversations with the printers would start right at the very beginning of the process as well, because that's where your creative comes into it as well. In terms of what cover finish you want with it, you've got very multiple different options. We've got hard case bound here, we've got a soft touch laminate cover here, uncoated stock, die cuts, spot UVs, and it's giving the client those opportunities as well. And it's always good to have those conversations with the printers, because they're keeping up to date with technology, and all these new processes. So it's always good to get those different options. So so I will in my instance keep close contact with the printers, keep them up to date of the timings, where we're up to, when they can expect things. That helps them get that relationship, and then that's where we kind of hand over to young Michael here, and he'll manage the process of the production side. So once all the spreads have been signed off for creative look and feel and the detail, then we have to go through the process of sending print ready files.
So I mean, in terms of that, once it's all signed off, then one of the ways that we manage, I suppose a couple of them, with the pricing, we use spot colours, something we call spot colours. So it's we'll use a standard 4 colour, so CMYK, which your cyan, magenta, yellow and black, and then we'll add an additional black for to basically sounds like
just an ambulance coming to collect.
It sounds like out of what is it, Jason Bourne? It sounds like the sirens out of that then.
That's what it's like down in downtown Altrincham. There'll be like some sort of a spy trying to get away from some government operative.
Window in a second.
They've just come in through the window. You can't. If you're not watching, you missed that. If you're just listening, then you won't have appreciated these spies.
You did just make me smile then, because I thought you were questioning what CMYK was.
No, I was just trying to get it in order then. I was like, what?
It's red, green and blue, isn't it?
Hang on, what's going on?
Okay. The police have gone, it's all fine. Back to it. We know what CMYK is. So you're using the extra spot black, so.
Yeah, so because with a lot of the catalogues, what we'll do a price version, and then we do an unpriced version. So with the pricing, we'll have that in a spot black, so that when we set the pages up, they'll get printed. So that once it, like say for the non-priced version, then the printers can just take the spot black out. So then there's no pricing coming out on the actual pages, which is it's a really effective way.
And I think that's something that's really good about what you guys do, which is working with the printers and thinking up ways that ultimately we can save money for the client. And that's a way of not having to create new plates and do that whole thing again, because we're thinking, there's a clever way we can do this and make that work, and and I think that's really key.
It's with a lot of these catalogues, it's all about being as efficient as possible, and trying to either automate things and get things as accurate as possible, but also get them done as fast as possible, because at the end of the day, time's money, I suppose. So it's if you can do it in a clever way, then you're saving the client money as well, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know you guys, you often go to the printers when it's kind of proofing time.
Yes.
Usually with these jobs there isn't the time to get the finished proof, or like a wet proof off the press posted to us and checked before you go and actually check it on the press, wouldn't you?
It's always good, in an ideal world you would have your book proof sent out to you, you sign that off, but I always think there's so much value in actually going colour checking on press.
Making sure you're happy with all the
absolutely
levels of the colours that are coming out.
Absolutely,
making sure the images aren't too dark, for instance.
Yeah.
Making sure that like the blues look as blue as possible.
Yeah.
And
there's not too much red in there, for instance, so everyone's looking sunburnt. So it's there's always a little variance that you just need to look out for, and there's always value in investing that time of going to the press pass. Sorry. Yeah.
And then that just leaves the last bit, which is I think was my least favourite part, which is the bit where it's gone to print, it's being printed, but it hasn't arrived yet, and it's waiting for that final thing to arrive on the client's desk, and to leaf through it, and hoping that someone in sales doesn't say, on page number 473 there's a full stop missing, or something like that, which just seems to be what everyone gets a catalogue in their hands like, there'll be something in here, I bet I can find something in here that's wrong, and mostly there isn't. There's always something.
I mean, I think it's one of those where I think after all the hard work and efforts that, not just me and Mike, but the whole team put in, it does feel a little bit like Christmas, where you're anticipating and waiting for that to be delivered. Because overall, doing these things, yes, they are hard work, and there's a lot of detail that goes into them, but there's so much fun. Really so much fun to build.
It's always a big achievement to get them out of the size, to see that, and I think, I know we live in a digital world, and we talk a lot on here, we talk a lot about the digital stuff that we do, but I do still, I absolutely love a thing, like a real physical thing that you can flick through. And I think that's true of, people's customers, and certainly some of these industries that people work in, they still like to have that physical thing to turn the pages off, and I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Any other little tidbits or interesting stories to share on that subject? Stories of catalogues?
It's just getting back to what Chris said. Generally with these catalogues, they are very intense and they're a lot of hard work. But one of the really good things about it is it's the team you work with, and although it's intense, you can still have a laugh, and when you need 5 minutes to walk off and have a breath of fresh air,
little time out, pick up a time out. Yeah. Mike, go and sit down over there for a bit. Getting a bit rowdy.
Yes. And just plenty of Red Bull keeps you going, I suppose.
Never seen anyone get through so much Red Bull, has he?
No. But overall, I mean, it is. I always view it from working with the printers, working with the clients, working with our own internal team to put these together. It's one big team effort that we all come together and we all take part in, and the sense of achievement at the end is, it's testament to every member of that team.
Yeah, definitely.
And I suppose like one of the good things is the feedback from the clients as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like say for instance, the Rallife job, they were suitably impressed this year, weren't they?
I think overall, we always seem to get good feedback from our clients, don't we? And I think customer base, I
think it goes back to the very beginning that you said at the very start, which is it's all about, did you understand the client's business? Did you understand what they wanted to achieve? If you understand that properly, and then you have good creative ideas, and then you've got good production and good technical skills in the middle there, you will end up with something that the client's going to be happy with, and you don't have to sit there and go, I hope they like it in the end, because you're going to, because you started from the right place.
Yes.
And I think that's what, again, all of these jobs we've been doing recently have had great feedback, because we've taken the time to really understand what it is they want. And I think that's the true of any job, really, of any creative job, but particularly so with something of this scale, that you just you have to keep an eye on what that original plan was, that original strategy for the thing was, and follow that right through to the end. And
I mean, I suppose that's one thing that Chris is very good at, because after the initial brief's been taken, you go away, do concepts and stuff. Some of those concepts might be a little bit out of the box, but then, and like even when it comes to like the design of the pages, Chris still always goes back to, well, okay, does it follow this, what the client's asking for, which is, one thing which is he's alright at, I suppose.
The one thing that Chris is alright at.
Just the one.
Doing with faint praise from right there. You must be so proud, Chris. You can ask him to write that. Ask him to write that down as a little testimonial on the website. Chris is actually alright at doing this. Great.
Sounds a lot. I've said it on camera.
Thanks for That's it.
Yeah. It is.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for that. It was very interesting. I hope that you found it interesting too. In other news, my headache is starting to go away, so you'll be relieved to know about that.
After spending time with us.
A new thing that I didn't think would work, I'll be honest. It did start dribbling sort of into my eye during things, so at one point I did think I was going to do myself an injury. I think maybe I put it too much on. But I'm going to go and have a little nap now. I think that's really the best thing for me. So yes, thank you as always for watching or listening, however you are consuming us. We'll be back next time with more interesting things about something. I don't know what yet, but it'll be almost certainly fascinating. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. You have to say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye.
They can't.
Say goodbye.
They can't. Not everyone hears you, so you're going to say goodbye. Let's try that again. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Toodles.